kid. I don't know, a cartoon. We're live.
And we're live. Ladies and
Hey.
gentlemen, welcome to the World of Gray podcast. In a society divided by black and white arguments, we are here to explore
the world of gray.
I am Kelowna's Cougar Meat Kid, Colin Cutler.
I'm the Flow Mike Chisholm. I am so happy to be here with you, podcasting on this beautiful day.
That's
in
right.
this beautiful place that we live.
It's great today.
Talking about things that maybe are beautiful, maybe are not beautiful, but I am happy to be here nonetheless.
Yeah, so today we're discussing what I call, well, no, I didn't make it up, but what I call the post-truth era, and
Right.
what it's like to try to learn about any topic in the world today, in the era of information, in the semio-capitalistic society where we have so much information to filter through and so many ways that it can be manipulated. So I'm actually not going to, I'm going to attempt not to rant too much. I actually want to hear other people's opinions on this. And I also want to hear kind
I
of
don't know about that.
what your opinion is of kind of this topic I'm trying to bring together here.
Okay, so the first thing, let's break. I'm glad you brought that up. I want to break the topic down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the post-truth era would infer that there was a truth era, and I'm curious as to what you think the truth era was.
Thank you for your question.
Yeah.
So
You're welcome.
The reason why I'm talking about this, our era now kind of being more of the post-truth era, is we just have, like, what is truth, right? Truth is the
Yes.
collective understanding of any given topic. So whether it was right or wrong, we just had less information to filter through.
Right.
So the overall common truth was narrowed,
Okay.
right? And now we live in a world where you can form your own multiple truths very, very easily.
Yes.
And you can argue and source your own truths very, very easily.
Yes.
However,
What's the difference between truth and opinion?
data,
You think?
I don't know, evidence.
So in this,
I don't know. That's a good question. What's
well,
the difference
and I think
between-
this is why we're
difference
breaking
between-
down what the
yeah.
topic is. This is going to
Yeah.
be this is kind of what the world of gray is all about. We're kind of
Mm.
unpacking the entire meaning of the thing. Because would you agree that one person's truth could completely contradict somebody else's truth and they could both be right in this era that we live?
Yeah, they could both have truths in the world of gray.
Sure. So is that something that has always been around, or is that something that has only shown up in this post-truth era that you speak of?
Great question. I think
Nice.
I think you're right. It's always been around, but I think it's been turned up. Like the frequency of it has been turned up because of the information age that we're in.
Sure.
Carrie Lee saying that Mike looks very sharp today. I would agree. Yes, I saw that. I also think that it not only is it easier to get information, it's also easier to put out misinformation.
Absolutely. And it's funny. David Letterman was once interviewing Barack Obama, former President Barack Obama, in fact,
Mhm.
and he was interviewing him, and Letterman said, "You know what,
Marty Sugar has joined us.
Yo, Marty Sugar. He and I are going to enjoy a tasty beverage later today, and I'm very excited about that." No, God, no. The establishment we're going to doesn't even sell alcohol, and I believe you owe everyone an apology.
You are the establishment.
So anyway, I don't even know where I was.
David
going with that.
Letterman, Obama.
Yeah, thank you.
Post-truth
David
era.
Letterman said when Twitter showed up, he's like, okay, this is going to be great because now the truth is going to be able to be spread all over the place. And he talked about how amazing it is. Obviously, and considering he's a curmudgeon, a very optimistic statement, because that's not exactly how the cookie crumbled.
Right.
Now you can find it's almost like the Bible, and I please, Bible lovers out there, I'm not trying to offend in any way, shape, or form. The Bible has so much in it that you can actually justify any behavior and say that it was biblical. And I think Twitter and this education that is being flooded into people, littered with facts that are and are not correct, I think is sort of a similar situation where truth evidence for truth can be found anywhere. Now, how credible is that
Right.
evidence? This is where we start going down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, and humans are really easily manipulated by emotions and storytelling.
Yeah.
The easiest way to get a point across or to get your opinion embedded in somebody's subconscious is to tell your truth as a story.
In an analogy.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ did that.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
religion does that.
Sure.
Right. And a lot of these conspiracy videos that people like will send me or that I just stumble upon, they really follow a lot of the same pathway techniques.
There
Thank
you
you,
go.
as religious perpetrators.
I
People-
wouldn't go that far. I'd say the techniques of a religious enthusiast. How's that?
It's very, very similar.
Perpetrators.
Especially there's
Were you
this-
going to church this week? Yeah, I'm perpetrating my religion on Sunday evening instead of Sunday morning. I'm going to be my religious perpetrator. Oh, okay.
So I'll
Okay, buddy.
tell a little anecdotal story here to kind of get a point across.
So you're
here.
utilizing the same technique.
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
let's do it. I love story time.
People relate to stories.
Story
And I'm not
time.
saying that's bad to tell stories. I'm just saying that that is a way that people can easily be manipulated.
I'm excited about story time with Colin. If only there was a dog. Oh wait,
Oh wait, we got him. Look at him letting you hold him and pick him up.
I know because he's my buddy.
Yeah, you're just like little best friends now.
Yeah.
But this QAnon conspiracy that's been going around that I don't even know how I stumbled upon it, but I've been looking at, I don't know if you've heard of this QAnon. Cool. So quick rundown. QAnon is a conspiracy that it was actually designed allegedly by a coder who had a company come up to him, and he was he's a gamer on Twitch. We
Yep.
talked about this a little bit before. He claims that he's the one that started writing these like breadcrumb codes. So people would have to, it was like a puzzle at first, right? And so this guy named Q, who said he had Q level clearance with the CIA and FBI, was leaking information about how Trump was handpicked by a really small niche part of the military who is against the deep state, who wants to overthrow the deep state, who's like Hillary, obviously all the classics, right? Hillary
Okay.
Clinton, Barack Obama, all like the classic, and George Soros, all these are classic conspiracy theorists roundup, right?
Okay.
And that and that Trump is working with Robert Mueller as it's like a shadow op. So it's just like an all big ruse to like distract everyone from the fact that the two of them are working at taking down like these massive like conspiracy pedophile rings and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's quite in depth.
So Pizzagate is involved with this.
Yeah,
Okay.
100%. It's like the next level from Pizzagate.
I was
Okay.
tired. I wanted to go to the previous level from Pizzagate because I never got any pizza. Every time I heard Pizzagate, I was like, oh, pizza, because the word pizza is in it. And I'm thinking, I love pizza. And then it would be stories about like a pedophilia ring. And then I wouldn't be hungry for pizza anymore. And I was thinking that maybe it was a conspiracy by the Beef and Dairy Administration so people wouldn't eat pizza. So they would come back
Yes. Here's the thing, though,
okay.
is they're like
Jesus.
every this is the,
Absolute disgust.
this is the tiring part for me when
Uh-huh.
we started getting into the world of gray of topics like this, right? In the truth is everything has a sprinkle of truth in it. And I'm not saying that
Mhm.
there's not pedophilia rings. I'm not even saying that the Clintons may not be involved in a pedophilia ring. Bill Clinton's
Nor are you saying they are.
nor am I saying they are, but Bill Clinton is a creepy fuck. Sorry. Allegedly. But like if you look at the Jeffrey Epstein, like this is an issue. This is a real issue.
Yeah.
However, when you start looking into a lot of these conspiracies, especially the conspiratorial videos, there's a lot of anomalies. Okay. So a big example of this is there was some video someone sent me, and in the video, they cited a source called the International. I just had it. I'm not going to look it up, but it was like,
Okay.
it sounded very official. It was like the International Bureau of
Oh.
Investigation into crimes against, like
Koala bears.
into like the royal family. I don't know. It was like, it sounded really official anyways. And so when I looked up what this is, it's one guy
Oh,
who has a
no.
blog
Oh,
who has
no.
been outed of having multiple false misinformation campaigns out there. But in the video, it just quickly uses that as a source and then moves on. So you're like,
Mhm.
oh, that sounded official, but you don't really have time to even comprehend
But it
what
probably
that
built
said.
quite a big bridge between comments or complex ideas that
Right.
were now being linked together to
Yeah.
show, okay, and so if you believe that, now you're going to believe the whole kit and caboodle.
Right.
But that was a very, very key element of believing. And
Right.
if that was BS, then also the
Yeah.
whole story could be BS.
So let's say within this Pizzagate conspiracy
man.
that a lot of it is true. Maybe even some of the people that you have in there's these pedophile rings or whatever. But as soon as these videos come up that have these false sources and misinformation, it starts to discredit all these things, right? And so if you're not the type of person to go back and source your material, you're going to be very easily manipulated into following one specific narrative.
Right.
With the QAnon conspiracy, when you start to look at the structure of how it's designed to get people into this group, and it starts getting very cult-like, but it does follow a lot of the same religious guidelines that we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about the Great Awakening. It talks about like evil, good versus evil. It's like pro wrestling storytelling. It's literally storytelling at its purest form. That's what that's why pure wrestling is what it is. It's good versus evil, because that is the story that we all know, night and day, right? It's just inherently in us.
I like wrestling in the night rather than the day.
Yeah, wrestling at night's hard. I've done it.
Wrestling at night. Like wrestling during the day is okay because then you can maybe get together and play poker and stuff afterwards. I've got a poker on the brain right now because I want to play some poker.
Yeah, me too.
But
let's ditch this podcast and go play poker. Who's down? Carrie, Kevin Jeffries. That's 4, 5, 6. Poker. That's a poker game, right? That's
a poker game.
Who's coming over? 660 Bell Road. Let's do this.
Your girl's not going to be happy with that.
Not going to be happy that I just said the address on a live cast.
Oh yeah. Hey, people who are talking about the Clinton thing, we were kidding about that, right?
Yeah.
Not the Clinton thing, but his address. We're at a different address.
We're at a different address.
I think they could find out your address. If they
Anyways, I promised I wouldn't rant. So I don't know. After everything I just said, what do you think?
No. Well, okay. I totally think that we live in a society where as people talk about, they talk in stories.
Kevin Jeffries has joined us.
Oh, wonderful. He's joining me later for a meeting as well, for a tasty beverage with Marty Sugar. Non-alcoholic, correct. Non-alcoholic. They don't even sell alcohol. Yeah,
perfect.
But yes, I do think that people talk in stories, and I think that gets people really excited. We've got a saying in the investment world: when your plumber is giving you investment advice, it's time to get out. and many times, what happens? And I'll talk about this. You think about Bitcoin and what happened with cryptocurrency over the last few years. How so many people who are like construction workers and different backgrounds, suddenly they're buying some cryptocurrency. The cryptocurrency is going up and they think that they're investment experts when it's a very, very, very complex thing. But the way that they got so many of these people excited about this very complex issue is through stories. Did you know that they're selling you can buy a car now from this place using Bitcoin, and you can actually translate this over to Amazon dollars, which will mean that you can buy things with Bitcoin and you can do this. Did you know that you're doing that? Did you know that Bitcoin is going to, and just all these stories. So those did you knows are very dangerous because many times those did you knows are false. They are exaggerated. They're like a game of telephone. And I think that's where we live right now. This post, as we're talking about the post-truth, and I was kind of making fun with earlier a little bit, but I think it's like a game of telephone. Did you remember playing that game telephone when you were a kid? Okay, so you line up 7 adults and you figure out a phrase. You put it in the first adult reads it and then whispers it in the other adult's ear one time. And then that adult needs to whisper what they heard to the next adult over. And by the time you get to the 5th or 6th person, it's a completely different phrase than what was originally written down. And I feel like truth in our society is a huge ass game of telephone that's been happening.
Do you ever hear the bit about how, like, what if religion is just a broken game of telephone? Like, what if there wasn't a man named Jesus? His name was Joseph.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a Messiah. He was just a really good masseuse.
Oh, man.
And people are like, oh, your next date? Go see Joseph. He works miracles.
Holy cow.
So good.
First off, I think I want to go see Joseph. I think that is something that, if that was all about, I'd probably go to church.
Right.
Weekly. Like, I mean, my God.
Have some wine, get a massage.
Yeah, like imagine how loose I'd be for the rest of the week if that was the beginning of every week.
What's one thing?
Would there still be peace and love? Was Joseph a peace and love celebrating type of fella?
Yeah, but you had to pay him.
Yeah, but he worked miracles. To me, that seems like quid pro quo, right? Like,
What's one topic someone told you that you went, "Whoa, that's crazy," and then you kind of believed it, and then when you looked into it, turns out, yeah,
The moon.
that guy.
That's
Ah.
the comedy. Oh, there you go.
He
There
was
we
a
go. So now
wi-
we technically have cited in the comments. So we have not stolen, butchered, and brutalized anybody's bit.
I may have butchered it. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Oh no,
He
we
used to
did,
be a
but because we
YTV
quoted
host.
it.
That guy.
Really?
Yeah. So
Diversity now, back in the day.
So you used to
I'm
believe
saying
that
just because his name. That's
you
the
used to
only
believe
reason.
that the moon landing didn't happen.
Correct.
Okay, so what changed your mind? So first of all,
Yes.
what information? Where did you get your information that made you believe that, and then what pulled you out of that?
The
belief?
Fox Television Network.
Made you believe that the moon landing didn't happen?
Correct. They also made me
Interesting.
believe that there is an alien that an autopsy was conducted on for about 45, maybe 50 seconds.
Okay.
They had television shows in the 90s that would do exactly this. I believe Fox was like, I think it was Geraldo that went into Al Capone's vault. There was nothing there. And then they would have like this alien autopsy thing where it looked like this film was basically, the way I remember was it looked like an autopsy of an actual alien in black and white film footage, and then by the end of the film they made you feel like an idiot for believing that it actually happened. But they had Jonathan Frakes, that's number one from Star Trek The Next Generation, host it.
Right.
Yeah, and then they had a show also that debunked the moon landing, and everything that they had in that show, it was like the first flat earth YouTube video somebody ever
Right.
saw, where it's like, holy cow, this has gone to the next level. Oh my God, these guys are telling so much truth. And really at the end of the day, Neil deGrasse Tyson, how did it come back? I totally believe it. I totally believe it. I'm like, oh my God, the American government tried to pull a fast one on the world to show how supreme they were. It makes so much sense. This moon landing didn't really happen. Here's how they fabricated it. Oh my God, check this out. And I believe that because I saw it on TV, and it was presented in a way like it was a documentary. And then a few years later, I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson. He debunked the whole show, and I was like, oh, okay. I really don't know very much about this stuff. I'm just listening to stories and believing. Now, I've heard both stories, and I can accurately say that I have believed both stories because they were both presented to me as stories, and I've gone from one direction completely to the other.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm glad you said, because it made so much sense. And I think that's probably the common theme with all conspiracy theories when people believe them is, oh, it just makes sense to me, right? Like there's still conspiracy theories that I still believe to this day because the information I've seen just here, I'm like, oh, that makes so much more sense.
okay. So
And
what's
I've
one of yours?
never, like 9/11 being an inside job.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I know that it was.
People
but
knew
I'm
it was
just-
going to happen. You thought
I feel
people
like
who
it
were
was-
on the good side knew that it was going.
Well, to me, I feel like it was a false flag, and I'm probably wrong. I just the lack of information gets me more than like the information I've seen, right?
Right.
Like the Pentagon being hit and then taking away all the security cameras and releasing one frame which doesn't show a plane. Like, why not just show it? Like,
Right.
I just don't understand that to me.
Yeah.
If anyone can debunk that, great. The building falling at nearly free fall speed, with them being the only 3 buildings for that to ever happen in history.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not saying I'm not susceptible to it as well. Especially at a younger age, I was.
But something seems
really-
hinky.
But to me, like, I still haven't seen any other information to pull me out of that, right?
Right.
But there's other conspiracies that I've seen that I've even instinctually, because can be susceptible to, I'm like, oh, that's really messed up. And then I go to find the sources and it just all slowly fizzles away because
Yeah.
these sources have just been like proven time and time again. The 9/11 thing, there's cited documentaries, right? There's multiple cited documentaries that have their sources. Jesse Ventura, who's like, was a politician,
Yep.
A governor, is like literally the biggest advocate for that.
Yep.
Asking why there isn't more of an investigation. Like, so to me, like, I'm not saying you can't question things and believing conspiracy theories is always a bad thing. But when all you believe is conspiracy theories,
Yeah.
and that's just your nature, and then when people say, hey, like, this doesn't make sense, this isn't true, you just ignore everything, and you
It
see
becomes
this.
a slippery slope, doesn't it? And
Mm.
turns from an interest into a pastime, into a hobby, into a way of life.
Yeah,
You
totally.
know, yeah, and then agenda and
Yeah.
basically religion at that point.
Yeah.
You know, I think
like a
some
cult.
conspiracy theorists are cultists or religion. I think they go so far down the path that what they believe in could be considered almost a religion.
Mhm.
It's a layer of beliefs that they have where they will their actions are dictated, their
Mm.
thoughts are dictated by these beliefs, and has nothing to do with a god in that case.
Mhm.
You know, not a lot of hope when you're a conspiracy theorist. When conspiracy theory is your religion,
Right.
yeah, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
No offense to any of the conspiracy theorists out there. Y'all can, you know. There's a lot of conspiracy in the world of pro wrestling. There's conspiracy in everything.
There's conspiracy. There's a
When I
lot
worked
of
at Costco, there's a lot of conspiracy at Costco, and I'm
There's
so
a
glad I
lot
don't
of-
work there anymore because I'm just, man, people would be like, "Oh yeah, management is doing this because corporate is doing this," and it all came down to why somebody's break was 10 minutes late or something. You know, like it was like, but it went high, man. And those decisions went right to the top, and it was a conspiracy against, you know, that person who was in Kelowna. We're gonna mess with them from high atop the mountain of power.
So if we stay on topic of the post-truth era and finding truth, and
Yeah.
we get away from conspiracy theories, this isn't the only thing we're talking about. I'm talking about even just trying to learn more about politics and politicians and their platforms, and then you have two sides. It's narratives, right? You're always going to have all these different narratives, and then it's really hard to filter through this information.
Yeah.
A really good example that I've used multiple times is the Medicare for All argument in the United States, because they had a study come out that was funded by the Koch brothers that was meant to. I'm going to start ranting.
We've talked about this in the past.
we
See
go
a
back.
previous podcast.
Go
Let's
back.
give the Coles Notes version.
Yeah. So the quick non-ranty version is there was a dollar amount attached to this because of a study, but that dollar amount didn't factor in the cost that Americans were already spending
Yes.
on healthcare.
It was an agenda based.
Mhm.
The whole thing was agenda based.
They were just
On
talking
both
about
sides.
the cost that is going to be within taxes, right?
Mhm.
So there's just misinformation, and this was on CNN and Fox because
Mhm.
you have corporate donors to these conglomerate networks that those donors are, you know, big pharma.
What makes a conglomerate? Do you know? We should look that up.
Like
That's something.
Well,
I know what a conglomerate is, but like, at what point does a business just go to the point of being a business, then become a big business, then it becomes like a multi-layered business, and then now, holy shit, it's a conglomerate now.
1991.
1991.
I'm pretty sure
It's a year.
So no, when we're talking about the news organizations, Bill Clinton passed. This is why you prepare for these things. I didn't know we were going to go here. This
also
is
many
thing.
reasons why not to prepare.
Yeah, right, because it's more entertaining.
If we would have prepared,
There
that
was,
question wouldn't.
maybe we could put it out to the 4 people watching. There was an act Bill Clinton signed, I believe, in 1991 that actually allowed all of these networks to monopolize.
Right.
And it took it was like 32 networks down to 7 or something like that. You keep talking.
They all in business with each other. They all washing each other's hands and each other's backs, probably each other's fronts.
So I was way off. 1996.
Okay.
The Telecommunications Act of 1996.
Okay. Right. But okay. So, and I mean, I'm not saying that conglomerates haven't been, you know, regulated and deregulated and whatnot since, but I'm just curious as to what
it just allowed media cross ownership. That's basically what this bill allowed, right? And so it caused networks to monopolize, and there's like 7 major networks now, if maybe less than that.
Yeah.
And there's actually we talked about this as well. Is
Sure.
There's really funny. Conan O'Brien used to show these all the time. Really funny news clips of all these conglomerate news stations, sister stations, all saying literally the exact same line.
The same speech would go down to
over
all
and
of the
over.
newscasters of the
A
various.
conglomerate is a combination of multiple business entities operating entirely different industries under one corporate group.
Yep.
Usually involve the parent company. Often a conglomerate is a multi-industry company. Conglomerates are often large and multinational.
Yes.
Well, this is long.
Well, it's a complex definition.
Thank you, Marty Sugar.
Marty
This
Sugar
is my
rocks.
favorite part of the podcast, by the way.
When Marty Sugar texts in, me
Not
too, man. I
just
love
Marty
it.
Sugar, just when people like get in here.
Yeah.
Get in here, everyone.
I like it when it happens after the fact. Like
Huddle.
I'll look at my Facebook feed and like somebody will have commented on something in the middle of one of our podcasts
Yeah.
from like a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, all right on. That
Yeah, that's
person's
cool.
really bored tonight. They're
Hey.
they're watching old footage.
We're so good for you if you're just bored and have absolutely nothing else to do. Can we put that on a t-shirt?
Well, I'll have to probably shorten it a bit.
My
But
best
yeah.
friend's wife is in town. Well, they're both in town, but she was talking to me yesterday.
Best
and
friend's
she,
wife's in town.
yeah,
Oh,
just
okay.
her. No, they're
Sounds
everyone's
like
in
the beginning
town.
of a story right there. I'm
No,
intrigued though.
they're all in town. They brought the kids.
Okay.
Whatever, they're in town. Anyways, I was talking to her and she was driving and she was like bored and didn't want to listen to the same playlist she had or whatever. So she just threw on a podcast about the Rutland housing.
Really?
Yeah, and listened
Was it
to
our
that.
podcast about the Rutland housing?
Yeah, it was Real Deal.
Oh,
But
that's
still.
good.
Yeah.
That's good.
She said it was funny
We
because
came off well on that one. I had somebody in my office
Yeah.
this week talking about our podcast, and it was really, really funny
Why?
because she was like,
I'm scared.
okay, well, not scared. She was like, okay, you guys should just close the closet door. Like take the time to close the closet door. And I'm like, yeah, but
No, man, we gotta air
we're
that
putting
shit
it-
out.
yeah,
I can't close that door.
can't close that
There's
door.
shit back there. That's
There's
really funny
reasons,
though.
There was reasons for it. But she said she was specific about it. And she
That's
goes,
really
yeah,
funny.
you guys are just kind of being silly. I'm like, no, we're not. We're putting in our 10,000 hours. We're finding our voice. We're doing all sorts of fun stuff. And she goes, but that one you did with that lady in that trailer was
Yeah.
really good. I was
Y-
like, okay,
yeah,
well,
yeah,
there, I'll take
We'll
that.
take it.
So thanks, Lisa.
Yeah, I was saying we're like slowly getting more professional. I think we should get a green screen.
We're going to.
Yeah.
You know what? My wife's working on something. This thing called He Changed It. I've talked about it a couple of times. Once He Changed It goes to its next phase, there's actually a podcast / video studio that's going to be a part of that, and we'll be a part of
You-
that. So instead of you coming to my house, or instead of me coming to your house, you're going to come to my house. But we will have a green screen.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it too.
We probably have to get away from Facebook Live,
Well,
or it'll just be a green screen in the background. when we do
Eventually,
it.
just so y'all are know, the Facebook people, don't worry. We'll show you how to transfer over and how you'll be able to find like a better version of our podcast. But the Facebook Live folk have always been there. They've been there from the very beginning. So we'll probably also figure out a way that we can maybe do an
Phones.
uncut version.
Who knows?
Phones. Yeah, I guess.
on
I
our
mean, sure,
phones.
sure.
But we're talking about this post-truth era, and really,
This
my
dog is sleeping in my lap. This
my
dog,
ver-
look at this dog.
he's
like,
so cute.
Yeah.
My version of the post-truth era is an era where actual truth isn't the most important thing anymore. What's important
Mhm.
is either the cult of personality, so just believing in somebody that you think has all the answers,
Or Team Apple,
or
Team Google.
Yeah.
Like this is my team.
right, yeah, team
I don't care what the better
tribalism.
performing phone is. I'm Team Apple, so
Right.
Apple rules, and anything else sucks.
Right. Or
Right.
whatever just riles up my emotions the most, which is we see
Yeah.
in politics a lot. And so and this is the tough thing when you're just, an average person like the two of us just trying to learn about anything.
We're above average in some areas, and we're below average in other areas, which would make us average as a overall score.
Yeah, I'm like painfully average.
No, I
in a
disagree.
lot of
There are things.
things.
Okay, yeah, a lot of things, but there are some things that you excel at.
I have a face that looks like so many other faces.
I used to always call myself generic, and Candy would get like mad at me. I'm like, no, dude. Like this is back when it wasn't a full beard; it was more like a goatee.
Yeah.
But it makes the same things. Like the goatee was in style at the time, and so I'm like, I'm just like any dude. I've got a kind of a bigger crooked nose, and I've got a goatee, and I've got white skin, and I'm like 6 foot. I'm generic.
So, what do you think is the biggest reason for us getting so caught up in this post-truth era and just believing things without actually looking into them? Is it that we just don't have time, or that the emotions take over and we don't actually care about what the truth is?
I blame marketing.
Which is hilarious because you're a marketing director.
yeah, but I still
So it's your fault.
sure.
No, a good leader never places blame.
Well, all right. Yeah.
I do a
so
lot of
it's-
things
So
that-
it's my fault. So it's my fault. I blame marketing because I believe that we do not give credit to how deep messages that get transplanted into our human experience are seeded. I believe that, yes, through advertising, but also through any organization that has an agenda, they are able to get through the layers of our psyche. Like when kids are so young, kids
Yes.
like I look at my granddaughter right now, she's like 15 months and she recognizes corporate shit already. And part of that's my fault. Like I put, Jumpman shoes on her feet when she was as soon as she came out of the womb, she was wearing Jordans, and that was just something I got a real kick out of, and so I did that.
As she came out of the womb, she was wearing Jordans.
It wasn't like the step number one, but it was probably within the first 15, 20 steps of the first few hours of her life. Yeah. It was up there. And so that's me going, hey, I like this brand. I think this brand on you would look really, really awesome. So that's what we're gonna do. And she's worn Jordans ever since. And it's like, okay, so right there, let's unpack that for a second. Where the fuck does that come from? Where this creature that I love more than anything in this world, and have a unique kind of love for, I'm also taking things that I love and trying to impart her on them, be a part of them. I mean, is it I'm trying to make her more like me? Is it that this agenda of this corporation has gotten so deep seated into me that
you've picked a team?
I picked a team. Yeah. Like, and so where does that come from? How does that make up my thought patterns? And okay, so that's just in a agenda of selling some shoes. What about nefarious stuff? What about these things that you are talking about, these scary people of the world that have unlimited resources at their fingertips that can use these marketing strategies to further their cause, their way, and then their cause and their way becomes some poor schlep who's just trying to feed his family or her family. It becomes their way, and they don't even know really why it became their way. It just did. So
one just aside, branding is always I've always found hilarious, because if it's a really popular, so if I wanted to have a sign, somebody hold a sign on the street to get someone to come into my restaurant, I would pay them to hold a sign up,
right?
To be like, come into Little Caesars or whatever, right? But if you have really good branding, you can get people to pay astronomically more to then advertise your brand to the world.
Yep.
Like it's just brilliant.
There's layers
to me.
of it. Oh, absolutely.
I had other points.
Marty said you routinely don't give yourself enough credit. I categorically agree with that. This guy here is a superstar. He's a 10 out of 10 in so many ways. He will call himself a strong 7, and it's not true. He is way higher than a strong 7.
I have a book right now called Dare to Lead by Brene Brown.
Oh, wonderful.
Awesome book.
Yes.
And yeah, it's talking about how if you don't, it goes into self-love, and I don't want to get too hippy dippy, but like if you don't have that like love for yourself, then how are you supposed to like make everyone believe that you care about them too, right? That's a really good.
When the masks in the plane drop, you put yours on first before you put your child's on.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think marketing plays a big role. And we're also in this time now in history where certain companies, communication companies like Google and Facebook, have unprecedented power over information.
Yeah, their megaphone is like the world has never seen.
And not just like a megaphone to get information out there, but to actually manipulate what information you get to see.
Yeah.
Right. So that to me is a scary thing. If we just had too much information and had to sift through it all, that's one thing. That's already a lot. But when it's
already impossible.
Right. When companies can decide what you don't see, and we start this whole censorship thing, this is where it starts getting convoluted. But yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about all that? I think we've talked about this a little bit, like with the Alex Jones censoring and all this thing.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. And I like, here's what I like. Here's where the optimist in me comes out. I like that we live in a world that has unprecedented challenges. I think that unprecedented challenges, like the unprecedented challenge I'm dealing with right now is this dog trying to make sure that we're both in a level of comfort and so we don't have to complete adjust ourselves all the time. That's my challenge right now. And I'm okay with that because I think we'll get past this challenge. But when I think about what the world is going through right now, there's never been a time where the world hasn't said, oh, these are unprecedented times, because all times are unprecedented.
Good point.
All times are unprecedented. Like, okay, this global warming stuff that is happening, climate change is happening. All right. Well, you know what? One way or another, there's going to get to a point where we got to dial up the technology to 11. Otherwise, we could be going back 5, 6, 7, 10,000 years. We go back 5, 6, 7, 10,000 years. It's not going to be the first time that happened. I don't believe. And I also believe that the species will continue on and figure out a way to persevere. And the earth and the cosmos is playing the long game, and they don't care about the short game. What what is hard for us is that we play the short game. Candy and I were talking about this last night. Like, I mean, it's crazy. We're thinking about some people in our life that are a little bit older, and I just lost somebody in my life, an aunt of mine, and no, thank you, I appreciate that. But we're talking wasn't so much despair. It was just a circle of life. It was like, holy cow, like it's short, man. Like we're halfway through our lives right now, and our granddaughter really brought that out of us. We had her for like 36 hours or whatever it was, and when a 15-month-old that you love so much just comes kind of in and out weekly or a few days a week or whatever, it changes your perspective,
right, of what's
immeasurably
important.
But at the end of the day, there's only 40 fucking years between me and her. Like, it's nothing.
It's a blip in the radar.
It's nothing. Like man, going back and remembering, like Nico and I were talking the other day. Nico's our 29-year-old, and it's like, okay, and hey, I said to him, hey, just so you know, do you remember when I was teaching you how to drive? And he said, yeah. I said, do you remember like yesterday? Because there was a special joke that we had. Like, there was something that happened that we still talk about this day, and it makes us laugh. It was a stop short joke. It was just really, really funny, where I was telling him to get on the gas, and we talk about it. He's like, yeah, I remember, like it was yesterday. I'm like, okay, I was your age. The age you are now is how old I was when that day happened.
Right.
And that just kind of made him go, whoa, like it's not very long. Like, and so because we play the short game and the Cosmos plays the long game, I think that messes with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the short game stuff, yes, this post-truth thing, whether it's AI that comes into it and starts fact checking, or AI that leads to like a Terminator scenario where that's the next evolution of life and that's where it goes. Hey man, that's where it's going to go. But I think that so many people struggle for the illusion of control, to show people that they have control. And it's such an illusion, because at the end of the day, all the earth has to do is just spread her mighty legs, and Yellowstone becomes a super volcano. Yeah. And the whole map changes, man. The Monopoly board gets upended, right?
There's a video that talks about like random things that could easily happen within our time frame. And
almost due to happen.
Yeah, they're overdue, or like
like within the next 20,000 years. And that sounds like a lot, but it's not in the cosmos. As far as the cosmos is concerned, in the next 20,000 years, Yellowstone is going to do its thing. Yeah. So if we've gotten to a place, we've turned up our technology to that point, great. And when these warnings happen, many times we do come together and we do turn up those dials. And I hate to say it, like it's so pragmatic and it sucks so bad, but hey, if we don't have the metal, if we're not there to get our shit together in time, we're going to go back. We're going to go back again, and we're going to have to reset, and we're going to have to spend those thousands of years trying to build it right again. This is where I've got a buddy who's he's like, all we're trying to do is save what we've done for the next time a reset happens, then we can go back to that and relearn what we did quicker. Right. And I'm like, it can't be that simple. He's like, oh, that's that simple. I'm like, yeah, but what about the levels? Tell me about the levels. Tell me about like Bill Clinton showing up in a helicopter and only talking to the landing on the rooftop of a Mason event because he's at the top level. Tell me about that. And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you about that stuff. I'm like, why? Because it doesn't exist. He goes, I don't know. He goes, what I do know is that if we don't save and keep record of the things that we are doing, where it's going to be lost forever. Yeah. Anyway,
you said I was going to say you're good at ranting, but not ranting, but the end got a little ranty.
I was ranting.
No, you're the Flow Mike Chisholm over here. You just said a lot of really good things. And I think in this world just full of noise, just so much noise, that really at the end of the day, we all have some simple universal truths, right? We all want to be accepted. Yeah. We all want to be safe. We all want our families to be safe.
We want love.
And we don't want,
that looks like.
We don't want to be like the sheep that don't know what's going on. And then one day it's like, oh, we have to, this is where it was like, you got to wake up, people. You got to wake up, because we want to be on the side that knows the truth, whatever that truth is, so bad that we will believe things that aren't true, which is like the ultimate irony. But at the end of the day, we need to take a step back and decide like what really matters. You could shut your phone off today. You could ignore everything and just focus on your family for the rest of your life.
Yeah, there are places you can go off the grid.
If it doesn't affect your survival, I guarantee you will probably be way more happy than if you were just sifting through all this information in the information age. And I just think you bringing that point up is just something to always have in the back of your head as you're trying to sift through information. Yeah. Does this even fucking matter?
Well, I think that happiness can be achieved wherever you are on the planet. I think that however complex your life is, usually will have the ratio to the complexity of finding that happiness.
Yeah.
So like, for example, if you're living this busy, crazy life in first world America or Canada or somewhere in the world, and it's all these moving parts that are happening, and then you see these studies of like the happiest village in the world, I think, is in Nepal, or at least in the top 5 or whatever. These happy people that have these simple lives. You go down to Mexico and you see these happy people with these simple lives, and it's not. I'm not trying to paint everything with one brush. Of course, there's differences and there's unhappy people in those places, but at the end of the day, the grass is not green on the other side. The grass is green where you water it. And how much time are you spending watering your happiness? How much time? And if you live a complex life, okay, you might have to do a deep dive, and might have to go in and go, okay, this is who I am. This is what makes me up. These are the things that are the things that relate to me. These are the things that can also be pitfalls for me. And do some self realization. You'll be able to find happiness wherever you are.
Yeah. And I don't want to come across as saying that if there's something you're passionate of knowing more about and you want to research something, or even if you want to get politically active in a cause,
yes,
that's an amazing thing. And you shouldn't shy away from that. And we're not here to deter that.
No.
One thing I would warn though is always do self-reflection, mindfulness, as they call it. Really get to know yourself, because you need to understand what your biases are, what your confirmation bias is going into researching that. Because if you're not careful, your reason for why you started researching is going to actually make you find the information that you inherently want to find.
Because it'll be there.
Whether it's makes sense or not.
Yep.
And so take your time when you're doing this. Look at all the sources, especially if you're a YouTube researcher. And hey, I love watching videos opposed to reading articles. I really do. I like Audible, right? I like listening more than I like reading. I don't mind reading, but I prefer listening because it just helps me visualize.
I do both.
And helps me. Yeah, I like doing both too. But
I find that I learn differently from both mediums.
Right. But be critical. If you're going to go into a critical topic, you need to be a critical person, and you need to source things so many times. And this is multiple people I talk to who will send me stuff like, hey, did you hear about this? Did you hear about, whether it's a conspiracy or not? I will literally take 5 minutes to fact check a source, if that. 30 seconds I've done it, and find out that source is complete and utter bullshit. And it's really frustrating in a world that already is throwing misinformation out there for people to spread misinformation.
Yep.
There's a really good video on YouTube where they show how easily misinformation can be spread when you don't do a simple fact check. So say you share it and then you fact check and you're like, oh shit, I was wrong. Well, guess what? You've already spread that information, and you're actually creating more of a problem than a solution. And
have you done that have you ever done that where you have spread?
Sure.
I know you've done it in the fitness industry. We've talked about that before, but there are times where my truth, and I'm good at articulating things sometimes, maybe not today, but there are times where I'm good at articulating things. And if I feel passionate about something, that passion also goes into that articulation. And there have been times where I've been completely out to lunch. The things that I have articulated to others.
Because you get excited.
And I feel,
and you jump the gun, and you're like, oh, everyone needs to know this now. But you don't even really know what's going on. And one thing, just as we slowly wrap up, a really good example of this is if you have, and I don't know if we've used this metaphor before, but if you have 10 people in the room that have all witnessed the same thing, they're going to give you 10 different stories, and there are 10 different truths. That's why they're really questioning eyewitness reports now.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. They're saying it's like a 60% or something like that.
Variance.
It's really unreliable.
Like because they're doing a lot more brain mapping now and discovering more about the brain and realizing that memories don't store and categorize the way we thought they did.
If you had a map of your brain, would you put it on the wall?
Yeah, 100%.
I think I probably would too.
I think there'd be like the roads of my brain map would never go anywhere though, because that's my life.
They'd all go in circles?
They'd go in circles and like make little things.
Okay, but then what we would do if that was the case, if my brain map, if your brain map was going where the roads all just led to each other, they were just going in circles, then our job would be to put really beautiful destinations on those roads. So even though you were going just from one circle, like around and making one loop, but the places that you were looping through would be amazing. They'd be like awesome. There'd be one place on there called Gentown. How awesome would Gentown
There'd be multiples.
Would you like to
Gen
go
would
to
be all of
Gentown?
them. Been to Gentown before.
Down to
Gentown's a
Gentown.
good time.
You've been down to Gentown?
I spent a whole night there once.
Oh, there we go.
All night. And it just, I just,
Mapping our brain.
so I guess my overall encompassing point is if you are seeking out to get to a certain destination with your information, you'll probably get exactly to that information.
Sure.
If you just go into something being curious and just getting everybody's opinion,
Yeah.
and then you can sit back and you can filter out all the different worlds of gray,
Yeah.
then you can come up with your own individual opinion
Yeah.
in a society divided
It's
by
every
black and
time.
white arguments. And that is why we are here to explore the world of gray.
You get
I
me
am
every time.
Kelowna's Cougar Meat Kid, Colin Cutler.
I am the flow in awe of Kelowna's Cougar Meat Kid, Colin Cutler, Mike Chisholm.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you would like to watch just the start and end of this podcast, go to our YouTube channel, World of Gray. Like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Peace.
Love and peace. Love and